Okay, hey guys, it's Joy, and I'm doing this video, the intro video again, because when I made this video to post, I had originally forgotten the actual date of my dad's death. I know, that sounds stupid. This video was originally going to come up on Thursday, and it was only going to be one video between, and there wouldn't be Wednesday and Friday's video. But since that's the case, I'm doing this in two parts, and today is Wednesday's part. And then you'll get to see Friday's part. I hope you'll enjoy both parts. Mom's going to be partially in this video on and off throughout the thing. She's going to be also in the background helping me out because what I am doing is 2 in 1 video today. So I'm going to be doing a makeover on myself. And we're going to be telling you a little bit about my dad, the end of my dad's life. Especially that last year, what went down after we put him on hospice. And how life changed for us over that course. So, alright, so the makeup is all picked. So my hair color is going to be gold. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick while we're talking. I'll start there. So, anyway, my dad's last year of life, we put him on hospice. But before we get to that, we need to start back about 2007, right?
Something like that.
He started having problems way before that, but in 2007, my dad had some real problems where he was falling a lot, and he was like just passing out randomly and stuff. And so he ended up having to go see doctors, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. So they finally sent him up to Iowa City to the University of Iowa Hospital, and he had to see a bunch of doctors up there. One time, we got a diagnosis that my dad had Parkinson's and dementia. Somewhere along the line, my dad also was diagnosed with diabetes and COPD, but those were down here in the Quad City area, and that was another time frame. Did I get it in the back look good?
Yeah.
Okay, so the gold isn't going to be really noticeable except for in a couple spots. I've done what I can with it. What do you think? Do you think I got it pretty good?
Looks like you did.
Maybe if I go the opposite direction across, maybe I can get it more covered. Hair done. While we are talking about Dad, I'm going to do my makeup. So anyway, so we were all these diagnoses came out. So he started seeing a neurologist. That's what I was trying to think of. He was seeing a neurologist for his Parkinson's, his dementia basically, and he had a really good one that we really liked, and so he was taking good care of Dad and everything. And I'm using Wet n Wild's Nude Ivory for my, and I'm just gonna blend it with a wedge. Anyway, so, but that was all good. You know, he had his medications that he took, and, he had his, you know, all this stuff going on. And in 2013, well, actually it was 2012, my dad ended up having, problems where a pill that he was on caused him hallucinations. Or at least that's what we thought at the time. Now looking back, we know it might be something else that had caused the hallucinations, but we got him right off that pill. And it was that doctor that just realized it was that pill causing Dad the hallucinations, so we got him off of the pill. And Dad still wasn't doing better over the weekend. In fact, he got worse. So we ended up putting Dad in the hospital, and they had to detox him, and he ended up in a nursing home. I'm telling you this because it sets up parts of what happened in the last year. Does that make sense? Okay. So anyway, and now I'm going to contour with my Wet n Wild Light Medium. So he was in the nursing home all summer. My dad had told me right before I left for camp, and he didn't remember this later on, that he blamed me that he was in the nursing home. He said that I put him there and that I was to blame. He never blamed my mom. I asked him, do you blame Mom? No, just you. And Dad didn't remember that later on, but that was what happened. And I went to camp, to work at camp, with this on my mind. During that time, my dad had to have his gallbladder removed. So another host of health issues became a problem. And they took him off his cholesterol med and some other meds. and Dad started feeling better, and by the end of the summer he was able to come home, and we were able to take care of him at home again. He was in there because in the nursing home because he had spent a couple weeks in the hospital and in the mental hospital because of the hallucinations, and then they had to put him where he could get rehab so he could learn how to walk again, like normally walk, because he hadn't been walking. He was fine, he could do it, but he needed retrained on some of the skills. He was shuffling too much and stuff. So we did put him in a nursing home that we liked, and then I'm using LA Colors Baked for my bronzer. So anyway, he went in to the nursing home, came out, and everything was fine. The next year, Dad ended up getting himself, while I was away at camp, decided we had talked him out of it before I went to camp, but then by the time I got home, my dad wanted to go through surgery to have a neurostimulator put in. It's not something I necessarily would recommend to anybody. It caused a lot of problems for my dad. It might be better now than it was back then because, more years of research and they can do more with it now than they could then. So, it wasn't the first time we'd been through troubles with my dad this last year that my dad was alive, but it was some of the worst. So, I'm just using my Revlon Color Stay Light to cover over my face just a little bit. Okay. So, fast forward a couple years later. In 2017, my dad ended up back in the hospital a couple more times. Between then and, in 2014, I think it was, he ended up with a couple more stents in. My dad ended up having a total of, was it 4 or 6 stents in his heart? I think he had 6 by the time he was done. Anyway, so he went into the hospital in 2017, and after the first time, they convinced us that we probably needed to have him on visiting nurses, and so we agreed, and the visiting nurses started coming out and seeing my dad, and he got put on physical therapy and occupational therapy with people coming out to do the physical therapy and occupational therapy at our house. That looks pretty good. Okay, so he had to quit the physical therapy immediately because they were really hurting him. They put weights on his arms and legs when they had him do exercises, and it was just too much for my dad to handle. And so, yeah, we had to quit that. But his occupational therapy, we ordered bands from, I think it was Walmart.com at the time. And my mom and I did the exercises with him and we had the occupational therapist was doing them with him, and so my dad was thriving with that. But anyway, and so we were doing really well, and then he had a setback. Well, then we had to call him and tell him that he was in the hospital, and we'd call when he got back out. And so, does that look good? Okay, so we did that, and Dad came back home. We got the nurses back out there, and within another couple weeks, Dad, just as the nurse arrived, my dad ended up needing to go to the ER, and so we had to take him by ambulance, and the nurse came in and helped deal with that day, and so the nurse was here for that, and then after that we ended up going back on the nurses, but then when they came out the first visit, they're like, I don't know if we're going to be able to help him out enough. I think you need palliative care, and palliative care is like one step above visiting nurses, but a step below hospice on what they do for you. They have like a doctor that can help get meds and stuff and all that, but they're not hospice. They're not quite like hospice where, you have nurse coming out regular. Well, you have nurse coming out regular, but you don't have all these other things, and you don't have all the equipment and everything. And so, anyway, so we're like, okay, but then they found out because of where we lived, we weren't qualified for it. And I'm like, okay. When they're like, in the meantime, you know, maybe we could have you talk to hospice. I know you don't really want to go that, but maybe that would be an option because you guys really need more help than you got here and like all this and that. So they like, because my dad was a fall risk at this point. So they set up, you know, they had both call me and, well, they had tried the palliative care, but palliative care wasn't going to be able to come out. So, does that look even?
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway, the palliative care wasn't going to be able to come out and take care of Dad. Well, they scheduled me an appointment with the hospice team to come out and meet with my dad and my mom and I and to talk over of what was going on and what we could do and where to go from here. And, okay, fine, you know, whatever. In the meantime, palliative care calls me and they're like, okay, yeah, we can make an exception. We can, you know, because he's been on it, he's been on the visiting nurses and all this and that. And so, like, we can make an exception and come out and see. And we don't normally do for that far out, but, you know, we can make an exception. And I said, well, we have an appointment with hospice, so we don't know what we want to do because we were under the impression you guys couldn't come here. And we're really not supposed to, but we could. And they're like, but if you're looking at hospice, you know, let's hold off on this until you had your appointment with them. And then if you decide not to go that, and you want to go give us a call back. Okay, fine. So on to, I think it was Tuesday of the week next week, the hospice team came out and talked to us. And Dad didn't really sit down on it. He met him and then he like went and laid down or something. But Mom and I talked to him. And everything they were saying, I was just like, we need this. We need this. I mean, we're at the point that we need that kind of help. And Mom's like, I don't know. And Dad's like, I don't think I need it and everything. And after about 24 hours of talking it over, we decided, yes, we needed it. Do you regret the decision? And I did kind of push and force it, didn't I?
Yeah.
A little bit. But it wasn't made alone. My parents did decide it with me. So you guys can tell me if you want me to do another makeover where I do my nails too. I will do that down the road. Okay. So anyway, before I go do the, put the outfit on, let's go ahead and finish up this a little bit here. My dad went on hospice the very next day, basically, after they had come out. No, they came out Friday. And the following week, I think it was about Monday or Tuesday, I called in. I think it was Monday. And then within 24 hours, they had a nurse here who was scheduling a new oxygen machine to be brought out because my dad was on oxygen, but he was through another company, and they had to get it through their company. Let's get Mom on camera for this part. And then they got him in the trapeze right away, and the oxygen, and then they got him a wheelchair, and I can't remember what else, and some like urinals, gloves, diapers, like pull-on diapers, and a commode. I mean, they like got a bunch of stuff here for the meds that we would need to have on hand. So we went through. The first bit was just fine. I mean, they come out once a week. The nurse did, visited with us, checked to see his vitals, checked on any sores. If there was any falls, we called them. They came out immediately. They assessed the situation, made sure he was okay. Everything was okay. The bath aid would come out. Originally, I think it was like once a week, and then we went to 3 times a week pretty quick. I mean, like the first week or two, it was just once a week. And then we chose to go 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We wanted somebody out here giving him a bath. So he did. So he had that. My dad was slowly losing his ability to think rationally, I guess you'd say. It was slowly losing his memory, his ability to be think normally, to do anything normal. And so one day I was in the kitchen doing dishes with Mom, and suddenly Dad leaves. This is our enclosed deck right out here. Comes through, and he gets to right about where Mom's sitting there, and he starts stripping off his shirt with his walker going along in front of him, and he puts his shirt in his basket on his walker. I'm like, okay, he's just getting warm because it's the middle of summer. He's just warm. He gets to the other side of this table that we're sitting at, and he takes off his pants. He just stands in the kitchen and drops his pants, didn't he? And he picks them up and throws them in his basket. He goes around and he gets to our deep freeze, which is on the other side of this table, and he's just about into our hall. But we have neighbor kids. And at this time, the kids were out of school during the summer. Or, no, it was in the spring. So they weren't out of school yet, thank God. But had they been home. My dad drops his underwear. He's standing nude in our hall. I goes, Mom, you need to go help him. Because I seen him from behind. I'm like, Mom, you need to go deal with that. He's undressed. Well, his bath aide, there was a miscommunication. They never called us and told us that she was running late. So she was running late, and we didn't know that. And so my dad was sitting there waiting for her, and he was getting more and more upset. He wanted his bath now, and he was going to go shower one way or the other. So that was one sign for us that there was trouble coming. We knew things were really going downhill. And then in December, his truck needed a battery put in, and my dad was no longer driving. But we kept the truck running for when we needed to get gas for what we call our gas station, which we don't use, but it was like spare tanks of gas. We have used it up, and that's no longer in use right now. So that we could fuel tractors and anything around the house that needed fueled without having to run down to the gas station all the time. And my dad had a winch on his truck. And so we had to deal with that. And so I was helping my dad put it in, and we gets it in. And I think I had to call my brother because my brother had to walk me through something Dad was telling me and I didn't understand. But anyway, we finally get it. And Dad takes the truck for a drive down the road and back with my permission because I said only down the road, right back. Okay, yeah, he could do that. So he did, and he did. But then Dad decides he's going to pocket his keys because I had taken them away earlier in the year because he had almost had an accident. And I basically stopped my dad from driving. Now, Mom, on the other hand, had handed over her license on her own. When she turned 80, she chose not to go get her license renewed. Instead, last year, she went and got a state ID. So that was Mom's choice. I want that clear. That was your choice. My dad didn't make that choice. And I didn't like the fact that I had to be the one to make that choice for my dad. And it fell upon my shoulders pretty heavy. Everybody's like, you need to take Dad's keys away. You need to take Dad's keys away. You need to take Dad's keys away. But I had to deal with Dad being upset about it. And so we had a fight in our front yard so I could get the keys back that morning. And we had to call hospice in because my dad got to where he wouldn't respond to me at all. He wasn't talking to us. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't drink. He wouldn't do anything. He sat down in his recliner on the deck and pouted like a little boy. And so we called him out. He loved his nurse. And he talked to her a little bit, but he's like kind of was jerkish toward her too. And so we got him calmed down enough, and he took a nap in the chair, and she goes, if he gets really bad, you can give him his med. They had a med on hand that was to help with the anxiety and stuff, and she goes, it's just he's a little anxious and everything. She goes, he'll be fine. She tried to get him to take it. He wouldn't take it. We tried to get him to take it. He wouldn't take it. He just pouted. For one whole week, my dad did not talk to me at all. He talked to my mom. After about 24 hours, he talked to my mom. But he would not talk to me. He did not say one word to me in that week. Like, okay, there was one word where he said yes or no to a question because he had to answer it because the nurses were there. Like, if the nurses were there, Dad answered me, but Dad would not talk to me outside the meeting time with the nurses. And it was right after the nurse had left, about a week later, that Dad said something to me, and we kind of broke the ice, and we were starting to talk. But my dad and I were on edge with one another for like a month after that. We couldn't communicate normal. Dad didn't want to really play games or anything anymore. He just didn't want to be around me. So it took about a month, and then Dad was back to being fine. But my dad also started seeing things in the house and having hallucinations. And it became more and more apparent that things were going downhill fast. And people were coming in and out and visiting him. Sometimes he'd recognize them, sometimes my dad wouldn't. Sometimes he'd go off in the middle of talking to them and he'd start hallucinating. We never knew what was coming up. It was a very trying time. And you can throw in your thoughts here if there's anything I'm missing or...
You're doing fine.
It was very hard for both of us. I think a little harder for my mom than me because this is somebody she's been with for over 50 years. It was 55 years when he passed, 56 years. They've been married for 56 years that February when he passed in May. So my mom, the oven's on and it just tripped. So my mom had 56 years of marriage with this man, and I had 40 years of life with this man. So we've had, a good chunk of life with him. And so for us, it was really hard to watch this. And as things progressed, I had to create a voice so that my dad would know his kind of come back out of his hallucinations a little easier. For me, when my dad would go into it, I was the enemy. I was always the enemy in the family. He always saw me as a demon. His words, not mine. I was a demon. So I created the demon voice, and I'm going to do it right now. So for my sister, if you're watching, my niece, if you're watching, and my mom, and my brother, and anybody in my family, I'm sorry. I love you guys, but it needs to be heard, I think. I had this voice, and I'd be like, do you want me to? And really took my voice down. I would be hurting afterward like I am right now. And that little bit right now because I've had allergies. My throat's already scratchy. Would really kind of pull my dad. Something would trigger in the back of his mind so it would go on for about 10 minutes. I would have to kind of use that voice, and I'd have to hold my dad in bed, and I'd have to, because he was fighting to get up, and he shouldn't be up during that time because he was so out of it. And so I'd have to hold him into bed and everything, and I was the one that took the brunt of the attack, even when my sister tried to help hold him or my mom tried to help hold him, because nobody else could have handled the strength Dad was putting out. I couldn't have handled it on my own a lot of times. But the amount of strength a 260-pound man can give you when he is fighting for his life is amazing. And it was very hard. And I can laugh now. During that time, there was a lot of times that I was breaking down crying. I would go to my room crying. I'd lock myself in my room. I would just not want to communicate. I was getting really depressed. I was struggling with feeling like I was worth anything because I felt like I had broken a commandment and I had crossed a line. And for me, that was really hard. Raised in a Catholic family, where you're taught the commandments and honor thy mother and father. Never physically harmed my dad in any way that was inappropriate for the situation. I mean, I may have accidentally hit him a couple times. That did happen. One time I went to grab his arm and he moved just right and I accidentally punched him in the arm. I felt worse than he did. I mean, you can ask my family. I was crying the minute I walked out of the room after everything settled down. I would just break down bawling. And I don't like to cry in front of people. I will not cry in front of my family. I'd walk off and everybody would try to find me and check on me and I'd be like, leave me the hell alone right now. Just leave me alone. And so I had to go through a lot during that last year. So for me, the build up to that last month of my dad's life was hard. But in that last month, my dad got to where he didn't recognize anybody. He was to the point he barely knew Mom and I most of the last month. My dad couldn't get out of bed. About a month before my dad passed, we stopped being able to get him up out of bed. My dad was taking too many falls when he got up, even with help. We'd have to, when we were getting him up, we would put him on a chair and wheel him to the front room, put him in another chair and not let him move. I had moved his chair into the front room about 2 months to the end because I didn't want to have him by himself on the deck, and the deck wasn't comfortable for Mom and I, and this way he could maybe see the neighbor kids out the window. And so we moved him closer to the front room and into us, and we tried to, keep him happy by watching what he wanted to watch. And he'd fall asleep a few minutes later, then he'd wake up and he was hungry, then he wasn't hungry, he was thirsty, then he wasn't thirsty, then he was this, then he was that. He was just trying anything to get up out of his chair. I need to use the bathroom. Okay, we bring the urinal to him. No, I need to do number 2. Okay, we get him up onto the commode and shut the curtains in the front room. We'd stand guard, everything. No. He was trying his best to do whatever he wanted. And it got to the point where I couldn't do that. I had an option of putting him on what's called respite, where I could have put him in a nursing home for 5 days, but I had promised myself and my dad I would never do that again after the 3 months I had put him in there for rehab purposes, because I knew that would just end my dad, completely end my dad. I would end my relationship with my dad, and I didn't want that. So say what you will, I did what was right for my dad in the moments. It was a hard time. I think I handled it with good with grace for the most part. I mean, my family was the only ones that got the brunt of my attitude. And thank God that they have to love me no matter what. No. No, I'm very blessed with the family I have, because with the stuff that went down, there were days that I was going off on my siblings, the 2 siblings that talked to me, the other one wasn't there. My dad, at the end, was holding on to see his one son, and I'm going to put this in here because this is the part that was the hardest for me in that final days. My sister was out here almost every day. Well, it was every day at the end, but we had, originally it was only Sundays, and then it became every day that she had to be out here, help me get him in bed, help me change his diapers. My dad had to be put on regular, adult diapers, where you have to unfasten it, you have to roll it, and that is one of the hardest things to ever learn. I never expected to have to see my dad naked in my life. I never anticipated a moment coming in that. It took me until it was about 3 weeks to the end, I think. A month to the end? Maybe it was a month. It was about...
Something like that.
It was within that last month of my dad's life when I finally became comfortable with seeing my dad naked enough to be able to change his diaper. And I quickly became the one that was the best at doing it. I could even do it on my own. When I had no help. It was best when I had help, but I got so good at moving that bed and moving him. But about 2 weeks to the end, my dad ended up with bed sores right in the middle of his back and on his bum. And I still have the pictures someplace on my camera. I will never show them to anybody but my family. But I still have them because they were a moment in my life that I never anticipated ever having to deal with. My sister had been a certified nursing assistant, so she had seen these on other people. And we knew at that point that the end was near. There was no real recovery at this point. He wasn't able to get out of bed. We were trying to roll him, position him. When we'd roll him and position him, my dad would groan in pain. Okay, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to stay tuned for Friday's second part of it, where you get to finally see my reveal. And comment down below if you have any questions, or if there's anything else that you're curious about with regards to all that. And also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Click the notification bell so that you don't miss out on the videos. And I hope you all have a wonderful day filled with lots of love and laughter, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.